Alright, hello and welcome. Requested from you multiple times, and I think this is a very interesting topic. We want to find the best pair of stop loss target profit of a given trading strategy. I'm also covering how to avoid overfitting with splitting the data. There are some prerequisites you need to know. You should know how to pull crypto data, what an SMA crossover is, and how to code it, and how to iteratively backtest it. I will link everything you need in the video description. This video will be quite high-paced, but I'm doing my best to explain everything detailed. If anything is unclear, please let me know in the comments below. Disclaimer, no investment advice, videos for educational purposes only. So let's get started importing some necessary libraries. So we need pandas for data handling, NumPy for some array creations you will see in the course of this video. We will need the Binance client to import cryptocurrency price data, and I'm also instantiating it here. Next, I'm going to copy paste a function from my other screen, and this function is pulling cryptocurrency price data using the Binance API for a given symbol from a particular start date on for a given time frame. In this case, I'm taking the 4-hour time frame. So the best way to show what this function is doing is by calling it. So if I want to get price data for Bitcoin starting in the beginning of 2021, I just call this function and store it in the variable df. This will take some seconds and will give you open, high, low, close data for Bitcoin starting in the beginning of 2021 and going basically until now. And you are getting open, high, low, close data. Next, we want to code our SMA crossover strategy. So the first step will be to create the short-term simple moving average. So I'm just taking 50 days here. Just as a side note, this is a very simple strategy I'm taking here to show you the concept of the stop loss and target profit calculation, or the best stop loss and target profit calculation here. So this is probably the simplest possible strategy you can code. Maybe they are more simpler, but this is good for now. So short-term simple moving average, just taking the close column, rolling over it with the window. So I'm taking a 50 time step window here for the short term and take the mean, and same for the long term, just taking the 100 time step simple moving average here. And with that, I've created two new columns, SMA 50 and SMA 100 here, right? As you see, the first n rows, so in this case 50 and this case 100, are containing n values because you're rolling over it and you are not getting data for these rows. I want to get rid of them, so I just drop them and end up with a data frame starting at the 17th here. All right, so here you see my short-term simple moving average and my long-term simple moving average. Next, I want to have the condition. So I want to have a SMA crossover, right? So an SMA crossover is when the short term is crossing above the long term simple moving average. There are two steps involved. First, I have to check where my SMA 50 is larger than my SMA 100. And then also I have to check where that is the case, but wasn't the case the day before. So because when it wasn't the case the day before, it is an actual crossover, right? So first I'm going to create a column called condition, and this is simply where my short-term simple moving average is above my long-term simple moving average, right? So this is just creating a new column here, and then you're getting true and false values. And you already see that this is quite a nice example here. You see that it was the case here that the SMA is above the 200 SMA, or the long-term SMA, but the condition is also true in the next rows here, right? And you want to avoid that, right? You want to only get those rows where it is true and wasn't true the row before, right? And with that, you actually have a crossover. So how can I do that? I'm just creating a by column here and check where my condition is fulfilled, so where I have a true value, and also where the value, the row before, So the row shifted by 1 was a false value. So this is an actual crossover. So let's take a look. Maybe we are lucky and getting we're getting a true value here. And this is quite nice to explain here, right? So in this row, we have the SMA 50 being above the SMA 100, right? It wasn't the case here because the SMA 100 is above the SMA 50 in this case. So we have a false value here and true value here, and with that a true value here. As you also see, we have a true value here as a condition, but we don't buy the asset because we have a true value, or we had a true value the rows before here, right? So this is the crossover. So we have our buying signals here. Next, I want to code the iterative backtest. So I want to take the rows where I buy the asset and then sell the asset somewhere, so at a given target profit or a given stop loss, right? Before doing so, I want to quickly do some column operation here, which makes things easier. So whenever you're getting a buying signal, you are buying on the next time steps open, right? You cannot buy in the same column, in the same row or on the same time step, because this would be a forward-looking bias, right? You can only buy after the signal was occurring. So you are buying on the next time step open when you have a signal here, which is not the case here in the first two rows. As you see, we are getting false values here, but imagine you have a true value here, then you want to buy on the next day's open here. So I'm just going to shift this open row by 1 row back, so I get the open price in the same row as the buy signal is occurring. Makes things easier. So just calling that shifted open and take the open and shift it by -1. Okay. Now I want to loop. So first I want to set the position flag. So this is a Boolean value which is changing whenever I'm entering in a position. This is getting a true value, but initially I'm not in a position, so initially this is false. Then I'm setting up some lists here, buy dates and sell dates, where I'm storing my buying and selling dates. And I'm also setting up a list of my buy prices and sell prices, so I can do the profit calculation. And then I'm looping over my data frame. So I'm using iteros for that, so you should be familiar with that. So I'm looping for index row in df iteros. And now I'm checking if I'm not in a position and my row buy value is true. So if I'm having a buying signal and I'm not in a position I want to buy, so I'm simply storing my buy price, taking the shifted open value of this row, which is my buy price. Just explained, right? You're buying on the next day's open. Also, I want to append the index, which is my buy date of that row, and I want to append my buy price, which is defined here. After that, I want to set my position flag to true, as I'm in a position now. That's already it for the buying condition. Now the selling condition. So first of all, I want to only check if I'm in a position. And now I'm checking my stop loss. So my stop loss is triggered when the low of this particular row is below my stop loss level, right? So my stop loss is based on my buy price. So buy price times a certain percentage. So let's start with 99% of the buy price. And if I get a low value, which is below this buy price times, let's say 99%, then I know that the stop loss is triggered and my sell price is my stop loss. So simply the exact same value here. And then I want to append to my sell prices list. Also want to append to my sell dates list, same concept as for the buying dates and selling and buy prices. And when this is happening, so when the stop loss is triggered and everything is appended to the right list, I want to set my position flag to false as I'm not in a position anymore. Same or similar for the target profit. If the high of the row is above my target profit, so my buy price times a certain target profit, so let's say 1%, then I want to take my sell price, which is simply my buy price times this target profit, and I want to append that to my sell prices list. And same for the sell dates. And when this is happening, so when my target profit is hit, I want to set my position flag to false, right? So this is my iterative backtest, covered in some previous videos if that was too fast. But in a nutshell, what is this loop basically doing? It's just looping over the sole data frame, right, for every single row. And it is checking for the buying conditions being true. And when the buying conditions are true, then it's looping further and it's checking, okay, when is my stop loss hit or my target profit hit, right? Nothing more than that. And then it's doing some appendings to buy dates, sell dates, buy prices, and sell prices. So when I'm running this, I'm getting a list of buying dates and selling dates and buy prices and sell prices, right? And now I can do the profit calculation. And the profit calculation is straightforward. My profit is my sell price minus my buy price. And if I want to have my relative profit, I have to set that into relation. So the difference between my sell price and buy price in relation to my buy price. And this is my relative profit, right? So let's do that. Let's say profits. And then I'm using a list comprehension to achieve that. Sell minus buy. So that will be my absolute profit here. And if I set that into relation to my buy price, get my relative profit for sell buy in zip, and then I'm taking the sell prices and buy prices. So this is just taking my sell prices list element wise, subtracts the buy prices element wise, and set that into relation to the buy prices. So with that, we have our profits. Just transforming that to a series to have some functionalities here. So I'm getting my profits here, which looks kind of bad in the first place, right? So I could take the overall profit of this strategy by taking the product out of that. And as you see, we burned money. So we lost 8%. No wonder, right? Very naive strategy. But now we are getting to the interesting part. Maybe there is a set of stop losses and target profits which make this strategy profitable, right? And this is the interesting question we are covering now. Before doing so, we really want to challenge this. So we want to extend this profit calculation by considering trading fees. So I'm subtracting from every relative profit, I'm subtracting the Binance fee for a buying and selling transaction. So this is the Binance fee for buying and selling a coin, right? So with that, of course, our strategy is performing even worse, right? But we want to construct it as realistic as possible here. So we made 11% losses with our strategy until now. And now we are getting to the interesting part. So before we can check an array of target profits and stop losses, we have to refactor this function. Reason behind that is you want to pass an array of stop losses and target profits, right? And you want to basically let this loop run for a given array of stop losses and target profits here. So you need a function which is taking arguments of the stop loss and the target profit. So let's do that. and let's refactor. So let's indentate that a bit here, and then let's make this a function. So let's call that strategy loop, and this is taking some data, a stop loss and a target profit, right? And the amendments are quite straightforward. So we are just taking data here, as we want to loop for a given data frame or data set, and then we are simply replacing this fixed value with the provided stop loss value and the target profit with the provided target profit here, right? Nothing more than that. After that, we want to also do the return calculation within this function, right? Because you want to know, okay, if I pass a certain stop loss and the target profit, how much did I make with this strategy? So we want to do the profit calculation within this function. Have to be a bit careful with the indentation level here, because we have to do that after the loop was running. So we are just copy pasting here, have our profit calculation, and then we also want to just print out the overall profit. So yeah, let's take profits. I can just copy paste, so the product of the profits here. Right, you can also subtract the 1 if you want to have it raw. I'm just taking it like so. So this function is pretty cool now. If we are just taking our stop loss and target profit and test that. So we were taking the F, and then I think it was 99% and 1.01, right? So you see this is the exact same value, right? And this is how it's working. So you can do that manually here, play a bit around with stuff like that. But we want to do that using an array of arguments here, right? So I'm just going to create a stop loss range using NumPy's very, very useful range function, one of the life-changing functions probably, which is providing you values in a certain range. So let's say I want to have 0.01 and 0.05, and I want to have a step of 0.01. This is providing me 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, and so on here, right? So if you want to have it for the stop loss, you can also work with start at 0.95, but I'm going a slightly easier way. I'm just subtracting 1 from this array, and as you see now, I'm getting my stop loss value. So I want to check. Of course, you can do that more granular, right? I just want to show you how the concept is working here. So this is my very small array of stop losses. So I'm storing that in stop loss range. And same logic for the target profit range. Just taking 1 plus and then the NumPy range from 0.01 to 0.05, right? So with that, I'm getting 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and so on. And now we can just loop and create an outer loop, which is looping over the stop loss range, and an inner loop, which is looping over the target profit range, and then call out a function, strat loop, and just pass the stop loss and the target profit and see what we are getting, right? So for stop loss in SL range is our outer loop. Our inner loop is for target profit in target profit range. Now we want to have some output so it's better readable. So we want to have the stop loss, which is just our SL value, so the element in the outer loop iteration, and want to have the target profit, which is the inner loop, so the TP here. So we want to print that out to see what we are getting here, and then we are calling the function strat loop, provide our data frame for now, and then stop loss and TP, right? So running this loop, we are getting the output here. So we are basically making losses all the time. Interestingly, with the exception here, and this is quite interesting, right? You have a stop loss of 4% and a target profit of 1%, and this is yielding positive returns here, right? But now let's do some more, let's challenge it a bit more. So if I'm taking 9.6 as stop loss and 1.01 as target profit, I'm actually getting profit using this strategy, right? But what is happening if I split my data set, right? So the idea is I'm just feeding a certain amount of my data into this stop loss optimization, right? So of course for these few values, right? You can extend that with way more values, right? I'm feeding just 70% of my data into it and then take the provided stop loss this is recommending to me and take the remaining data and test if that is actually working, right? So this is what we're doing now. We're splitting the data set to avoid overfitting and also challenge if this is really providing positive profits if you let this loop run on data and then provide and then apply that on unseen data here. Okay, so let's split our data set. So I'm calling that train data, and I just want to have 70% of my data, and I want to have 70% of the first rows, of course, right? So this is a time series, and I want to run this loop here on the first 70% of my data, right? You can also take manual values here, right? You can also take, okay, I want to have roughly, I don't know, 4,000 times 0.7, 2.8k rows, but I'm doing it more programmatically. I'm just taking the length of this data frame times 0.7, and then I'm doing an integer transformation, so I'm getting a full value here. And then I'm slicing my data frame until the first rows. So with that, you see we're getting until the 1st of May, right? So we're getting the first 2.8k rows here, and we're storing that in our training data, right? And now it's going to get interesting. So now we want to run this loop on only our training data, right? So let's see what we got. So interestingly, this is also telling us with a slight less profit that you should take 96 stop loss and 1.01 target profit. So we are taking these parameters and just pass them. So before that, we have to, of course, define our test data. So this is basically a similar logic, just going test data, and instead of going until that, going from there on. So with that, you will see that we're getting the rows from the 1st May on until today, right? So now it's going to be interesting. So we want to call this function on our test data and then provide 0.96 and 1.01. Let's see. And we even made 5% profit with this strategy. I find it funny because this strategy is, I don't want to say it's a joke, but it's just nearly impossible that the strategy is actually working. But it's funny that you can, when you take a look at optimizing the stop loss and target profit, you actually get a quite nice profit here. And what's important to also mention is that this is a downward going market, right? This is no bull market. This is a bear market since 2021, right? And still you're getting 5% profit, even taking trading fees into consideration, right? And now imagine you are applying these whole concepts on a dedicated trading strategy. I think that would be really interesting. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. And let me know what you're interested in. I'm looking forward to seeing the upcoming videos. Bye bye.